The Cleveland Browns finished the 2023 regular season with an 11-6 record and made the playoffs for the first time since the 2020 season. Unlike the 2020 season, they would fail to win a playoff game, and their season ended with a 45-14 loss at the hands of the Houston Texans. It was an up-and-down season for the Browns as they started the year 2-1, and in two of those first three games, they held the Bengals and Titans to 3 points apiece before starting a rookie Dorian Thompson-Robinson against a hungry Ravens defense and losing with a score of 28-3. They would eventually improve to 7-3 before dropping back-to-back games, and after the Rams loss in LA, the Joe Flacco magic was unleashed and Cleveland would go on to win 4 games before resting their starters against the Bengals in Week 18. You never know in the NFL playoffs, and with the Browns defense, anything was possible in the postseason. Unfortunately, you're not going to win many games when you throw back-to-back pick sixes, and Cleveland's postseason run ended almost before it got started. That brings us to the present day, and the Browns entering the 2024 season are in a bad situation. Yes, they have some great players on their team like the all-world Myles Garrett, but he can't lead the team to a Super Bowl by himself. In today's video, we're going to break down why they are in a bad situation and if they can even get out of it. Now let's begin. We are starting today's video by looking at the Cleveland Browns salary cap situation, and they currently have the 27th most available space with negative $20 million entering the offseason. All things considered, their cap situation isn't that bad, with the exception of one player, of course, and that is quarterback Deshaun Watson. Because Watson signed the 5-year, $230 million contract that will inevitably mess things up for the Browns, because at this point in time, Watson's cap hit for the 2024 season is set to be $63.9 million. The problem with this contract is because it's all fully guaranteed, all you can do is push money back and play for the season ahead and hope he shows enough to invest more money into a second contract with the Browns. That way the guarantees from this contract can be pushed further down the road. If you were wondering how this cap hit is $63.9 million, because 230 divided by 5 is in fact not 63.9, well, that's what happened to begin with. The Browns lowered Watson's cap hit to $19 million in 2023, and by doing that, they pushed the money he is owed back for the next few years, and that's where we are with Watson's contract. Deshaun has been a Brown for 2 years, but still has over $200 million owed to him by the Browns, and they can't continue to push the money back unless they absolutely eat his contract in 1 year and maneuver around the cap in a very drastic way, so that Deshaun would be getting paid something along the lines of $90 or $100 million in 1 year. One of their options they could do this offseason, which would save them $23 million, is to trade Amari Cooper and have the team he would be traded to fully take on his contract. Otherwise, Cleveland could save $11 million by cutting him at a cost of $12 million. The Browns also have other pricey players like Myles Garrett, for example, and that kind of is what it is. You have to pay for talent, and there is nobody in the city of Cleveland upset about having to pay Myles Garrett $20 million next year. Denzel Ward has a cap hit of $23 million, and because he signed a 5-year, $100 million contract extension not that long ago, he isn't cuttable either, and the Browns simply do not have a lot of options. Nick Chubb will have a cap hit of $15.8 million in 2024 and only has a dead cap of $4 million, so Cleveland could save nearly $12 million by cutting Chubb, and given he is a running back coming off of a severe injury, I could see Cleveland cutting Nick Chubb to save money or extending him by another 3 or 4 years. That way they push the guaranteed money down the road. But for guys like Denzel, Myles, Joe Bitonio, and Jack Conklin, they can't cut them without taking a huge hit against the cap because those guys' guarantees extend past 2024. It is worth noting they wouldn't cut at least 3 of those guys, as that was just an example. Jedrick Wills is one of the most frustrating contracts on the roster right now because the Browns picked up his 5th-year option as a former first-round pick, and he has a cap hit of $14.6 million next year, and Jedrick has been on a steady decline since his rookie year. So out of all of the players making north of $10 million in 2024, Amari Cooper and Nick Chubb are the only players that are cuttable, and even if the Browns were to cut both players, players, they would still be paying them a combined $15 million, 11 for Amari and 4 for Nick Chubb, while freeing up $23 million. This doesn't help the Browns get money for free agents or to even fill out a draft class, because they need more money to be able to both sign free agents and be able to pay their 2024 draft picks. Deshaun Watson's $63.9 million cap hit takes up 23.4% of their entire salary cap in 2024, and that's alarming. I know there's Browns fans that think optimistic, and I would too if I were a Browns fan with this monster contract on my team, but I don't think he's going to be the Texans' Deshaun and the player they envisioned when they made this trade. Because of this, and because they don't have a first-round pick this year, this forces the Browns to hit on the draft picks they do have more than ever before. That also applies to their 2022 and 2023 drafts. It's very similar to the Rams when they made all of the big trades to acquire guys like Brandon Cooks, Jalen Ramsey, Matt Stafford, to name a few. I know what the video is titled, and I would like to credit the Browns front office for 2 players I thought they hit on in the 2023 draft, and one in particular I love in DeJuan Jones. I loved Jones in the draft process last year, and he, like several other offensive linemen for the Browns in 2023, eventually went down with injury. The other pick the Browns made last year that I liked a lot, well, 2 really, was Cedric Tillman, the receiver from Tennessee, who finished his rookie year with 21 receptions for 224 yards. Siaki Ika was a prospect from Baylor I liked for what he was, which was a big defensive tackle as he weighed in at 359, but he didn't show a lot when he was out there in 2023. He had limited snaps, but even when he played, he really didn't make an impact. They only have 2 top 100 picks in the 2024 draft, and why I think the Browns are in a tough situation is more than just Deshaun's contract or any of the other contracts we've discussed so far. I think they have the talent to beat most teams on a good day, but that's kind of a problem in itself, is on a good day. We even saw the Browns take down both number 1 seeds this year with a 19-17 win over the 49ers in Week 6 and a 33-31 win over the Ravens in Week 10. But the problem that I think the Browns are going to run into is a talent discrepancy between them and the other premier AFC teams, and that doesn't pertain to just 1 or 2 teams specifically. I have my concerns with the Browns' offensive weapons outside of David Njoku. Amari Cooper went for over 1,250 yards in 2023, and good for him, honestly. But 265 of that came in 1 game, and he had 6 games with 40 yards or less receiving, meaning he was far more boom or bust than he was a true consistent 1,250-yard receiver. You never know what you're going to get, and I know I just said I like Cedric Tillman and the potential of Tillman, and I do, but I don't think he's going to be a 1,300 or 1,400 yard guy where defenses have to game plan around him. Elijah Moore is what I think could be referred to as a JAG, which stands for just a guy, and he is entering the final year of his deal, and the Browns are probably not going to extend him, as they can get the production Moore would produce for a fraction of the cost, and I do think Elijah is a trade candidate this offseason. I know a lot of optimistic Browns fans will look at the 2023 season as a whole and say we had 5 different quarterbacks start for us. Yes, 5 because they rested their starters in Week 18, which gave Jeff Driscoll a start, and say if we can go 11-6 with 5 quarterbacks and Deshaun can go 5-1 as a starter, which he did in 2023, then we will be just fine. It is worth noting one of the starts Deshaun had, he only threw 5 passes and technically got the credit for a win as a starter, despite not playing most of the game. But, and this is one of my biggest concerns for the $63.9 million fella moving forward, no win Watson has had as a Brown has been strictly due to him. No win the Browns have had has been because he put the team on his back. His completion percentage is a staggering 8% less between Houston and Cleveland. His passing touchdown percentage has dipped from 5.9% to 4.1%, and his interception percentage has went up from 2.1% to 2.6%. I understand giving the pass in 2022 after not playing for nearly 2 full years. Truly, I get it. But the numbers from Watson in 2023 were nearly identical to the numbers in 2022, and I don't think this guy is ever going to lead Cleveland to a road playoff win in a hostile environment. And winning on the road in the playoffs is almost a prerequisite for getting to the Super Bowl in the AFC. In a weird way, I would argue Joe Flacco not winning the playoff game against the Texans was a good thing for the Browns simply because there would be an enormous amount of pressure to bring Flacco back, and not only that, but the minute Deshaun Watson throws an interception in 2024, there would be fans screaming for Flacco to be brought in, even if the interception wasn't Watson's fault in any way, shape, or form. A 31-point loss in the playoffs is unsettling, of course, but one thing the Browns will have to get better at in 2024 is playing on the road. They were a completely different team when they were at home versus when they were on the road in 2023, as they were 8-1 at home with their lone loss coming against the Ravens. Like we mentioned earlier, that game was quarterbacked by a 5th-round rookie in Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and it was just the second game without Nick Chubb, so a loss was to be expected there. But they allowed 29.6 points per game on the road versus 13.9 points per game at home, and out of the 125 points they allowed at home, 28 came in that Ravens game, and if you take that game out, the Browns allowed an average of just 12.1 points per game at home this past year. I don't want that to get lost in today's video, as how dominant the Browns defense was at times in 2023, and they lost games this year they had no business losing, and you can very easily make a case they should have finished the year with 12 or even more wins. The Steelers game is most notable as Pittsburgh had 3 touchdowns in that game that were, I don't want to say lucky, but 3 touchdowns that weren't the result of a nice, long, sustained drive. They had a pick 6 that bounced off a player's hands, they had a 75-yard touchdown by George Pickens, and a strip sack for a touchdown. That's certainly not normal to win a game like that in which you take 0 snaps inside the opponent's red zone, and aside from a big play, you only had 180 yards all night. But my point is, the Browns defense at times in 2023 was lights out. They only allowed 400 or more yards in one game, which was against the Colts, and guess what? Cleveland won that game. If you are a Browns fan, I think it's very easy to sell yourself on the fact they were 2-2 entering their Week 5 bye and managed to go 9-3 in the next 12 games to be 11-5 through 16 played. They even beat the 49ers and Ravens in that span. But I think there's a lot of questions heading into the 2024 season for Cleveland, and it's not just Deshaun Watson either. I love Nick Chubb, and he is my favorite running back in the NFL, and I've spent some time with him off the field, and he is a great dude. But I have questions about a player who is 28 coming off of a major injury at a position that has one of the shortest career spans in today's NFL. I would love for him to run for another 2 or 3 years behind Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller, and to continue to pound the rock like they have over the past few years. But with contractual obligations the Browns have, and with Joel Bitonio turning 33 and Wyatt Teller turning 30, and of course the uncertainty of both Chubb and Amari moving forward due to financial complications, I worry about this team. This isn't a Buffalo situation where they can't get past one of the best quarterbacks we've seen that they've run into in 3 of the past 4 postseasons. This is several factors going into one. I truly think Cleveland can win the AFC North in 2024, and will they, of course, is a different question. The Browns went from 2003 to 2020 without a playoff appearance, and this isn't a same old Browns video or anything like that, because we are well past those days. We're now in the good team area, but we also have a lot of aging veterans and extremely limited cap space to improve the roster to get to a great team and to be able to compete for championships. And when you factor in an untradeable contract, this all goes into why the Browns are in a tough situation moving forward. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like and subscribe, as only about 33% of people watching are subscribed, and it helps the channel tremendously. Until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.